For the ancient Greeks and Romans, the world wasn't just a map of conquests, it was a map of stories.
These weren't simple tourist attractions. They were direct challenges to nature. In an era without heavy machinery, without electricity, and without computers, humanity managed to raise mountains of stone, divert rivers, and create gods of gold and ivory that touched the temple ceilings. In this video, we are going to take a walk through history. And for that, I will use modern AI tools to bring historical descriptions, archaeological ruins, and ancient engravings to life.
Join me on this journey to the past. I'm Arthur, and today we will discover history together.
We are going to take the definitive grand tour of antiquity, a journey that crosses deserts, seas, and centuries, to visit places that, for the most part, no longer exist other than in our collective imagination. We begin our journey at the edge of the desert, where Egyptian civilization meets eternity. This is the Great Pyramid of Giza, but not like the sand-colored ruin we know today. We are in the year 2500 BC. The first thing that strikes the eye is the light. It is almost blinding. The pyramid is completely encased in white Tura limestone, polished with such perfection that the joints are invisible to the naked eye. Under the midday sun, the structure doesn't look like it was built stone by stone, but rather sculpted from a single block of solid light. At the peak, nearly 150 meters up, the pyramidium, possibly made of gold or electrum, acts as a beacon reflecting the sun's rays for kilometers across the Nile Valley. But look down at the base. This isn't an isolated monument. It is a city of the dead full of life. We see funerary temples where incense burns 24 hours a day, roofed processional causeways connecting the pyramid to the river, and priests performing complex rituals. All around, there is no silence, but the noise of a metropolis of workers, artisans, and architects. Standing here 4,000 years ago meant feeling the absolute weight of the power of a pharaoh who not only ruled the land, but sought to conquer death itself. For now, we leave the Nile and travel east to the cradle of civilization between the Tigris and the Euphrates. We enter Babylon in the year 605 BC, where Iraq is today. In a city defined by blue brick walls and suffocating heat, the Hanging Gardens were a visual anomaly, a green hallucination. According to legend, King Nebuchadnezzar II built them for his wife Amytis, who missed the forested mountains of her homeland in Media. This reconstruction allows us to fly around the terraces. Observe the engineering. It's not just a garden, it's a machine. They designed a system of tubes and levers operated by slaves hidden in the shadows of the structure that sucked water from the Euphrates River and pumped it to the top, creating artificial waterfalls that watered exotic trees, palm trees, and flowers brought from every corner of the known empire. Imagine walking through these galleries. The thermal contrast must have been striking, passing from the scorching sun of Babylon into the cool, humid shade of these gardens, with the constant sound of falling water and the scent of fruits and flowers. It was, in essence, history's first artificial mountain, a reminder that the king had the power to bend nature to his will. Now we cross the sea to Greece, but not to a bustling city, to a sanctuary, Olympia, in the year 430 BC. Here, every 4 years, wars stopped and athletes competed for glory. But the real attraction wasn't on the track, but inside this temple. Crossing the bronze doors, the light changes. we enter the dim interior of the Temple of Zeus. Here, the sculptor Phidias created something that defined the word majesty. The statue of seated Zeus measured more than 12 meters. Chronicles said that if Zeus were to stand up, he would have shattered the temple roof. But it's not just the size, it's the materials. The god's skin is polished ivory, his robes and sandals solid gold. The eyes, inlaid with precious stones, seem to look directly into the visitor's soul. Observe the floor in front of the statue. There is a shallow pool filled with black olive oil. This had a dual purpose, to preserve the ivory from humidity, but also to act as a dark mirror reflecting the light upward, illuminating Zeus's face from below, giving him a supernatural aura. Being in here, surrounded by silence while thousands of people screamed at the games outside, must have been an overwhelming religious experience. Now we sail across the Aegean to the coast of modern-day Turkey. We arrive at Ephesus, one of the richest cities in the ancient world. And dominating the skyline, we see the Temple of Artemis in the year 550 BC. But first, subscribe to the channel. To understand this place, forget the austerity of the Parthenon. This was pure opulence. The temple was immense, twice the size of any temple in Athens, a forest of 127 marble columns, each 18 meters high. And unlike other Greek temples, many of these columns were sculpted with intricate reliefs at their base, painted in vivid colors, reds, blues, and golds. But this site wasn't just for prayer. It functioned as an international bank, a sanctuary of asylum for criminals, and an art market. Imagine the sounds of silk merchants from the east, priests, pilgrims, and fugitives, all mingling under the shadow of the goddess of the hunt. It was an institution so vital that when an arsonist named Herostratus burned it down seeking fame, the shockwave shook the entire Mediterranean. Seeing it reconstructed here allows us to understand why Antipater of Sidon said that upon seeing the house of Artemis, all other wonders lost their shine. A short distance to the south in Turkey, in the city of Halicarnassus around the year 350 BC, we find a story of love and mourning turned into stone. This is the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, commissioned by his wife, Artemisia. This building is fascinating because it is an architectural hybrid. If we zoom in with the camera, we can see three cultures fused into a single structure. The high, square base is Lycian, the colonnade surrounded by statues is purely Greek, and the stepped pyramidal roof is Egyptian. It all culminated in an immense marble quadriga with the figures of Mausolus and Artemisia suspended 45 meters in the air. But what really made this place special were the statues. They weren't just on the roof. The entire building was wrapped in hundreds of life-size and larger-than-life sculptures, guardian lions, mythological battles, heroes. It wasn't a building decorated with art. It was a mountain of art serving as a building. It shone so brightly under the Aegean sun that it served as a reference point for sailors kilometers away. From here, the word mausoleum was born, turning the name of a local king into an eternal noun. We continue our maritime journey to the island of Rhodes in Greece in the year 280 BC. Here, the wonder is not a building, but a challenge to physics. The Colossus of Rhodes was born of war. It was built with the melted bronze of siege machines abandoned by a defeated invading army. For a long time, popular culture imagined this giant with his legs spread over the harbor entrance, but the engineering of the time and logic suggests he stood on a pedestal next to the entrance, as we see in this reconstruction. Even so, the image is imposing. A statue of Helios, the sun god, 33 meters high, the size of the Statue of Liberty from feet to crown.
Imagine arriving by boat at sunrise. The sun rising in the east would hit the god's bronze back, creating a gigantic black silhouette cut against the light, or reflecting a blinding shine toward the city. It was a declaration of independence and economic power. The sound of the wind whistling around tons of bronze and the creaking of the metal heating in the sun must have been the constant soundtrack of the port. Finally, we close the circle, returning to Egypt, but centuries after the pyramids, to the year 280 BC, to the city founded by Alexander the Great, Alexandria. Facing its harbor rose the only wonder that had a real practical function, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. At over 100 meters tall, it was for centuries the tallest habitable structure in the world. Its design was mathematical and precise, a massive square base, an octagonal central section, and a circular top. But the real wonder was its light technology. During the day, a system of polished mirrors reflected sunlight to send signals to ships. At night, a massive fire burned at the peak. It is said its light could be seen 50 kilometers out to sea, an artificial star guiding sailors toward the largest library and market in the world. Inside the tower, a spiral ramp allowed beasts of burden to carry fuel up to the top. Standing here on the breakwater of Alexandria was to be at the center of human knowledge, under the light that protected civilization from the darkness of the sea. Time is relentless, but now I want to bring you back to the present. We are going to tour these same locations today to see what has survived the earthquakes, fires, and looting of the last 2 millennia. The Great Pyramid. It is the only one of the 7 still standing. It has lost its shiny white layer, and the golden pyramidion was stolen centuries ago. But its stone core remains, defying the horizon of modern Cairo, as immovable today as it was 4,500 years ago. The Hanging Gardens. Today, the site of ancient Babylon in Iraq is a field of excavations and partial reconstructions. Of the gardens, nothing remains, not an irrigation system, not a root. Historians still debate whether they truly existed or were just a beautiful poetic myth. The Statue of Zeus. The temple in Olympia is today a puzzle of columns fallen on the ground, toppled by earthquakes. The statue was dismantled, taken to Constantinople, and finally destroyed in a fire. Of Phidias's gold and ivory, not a trace remains. The Temple of Artemis, where once there were 127 columns and a global financial center, today there is a swampy field on the outskirts of the Turkish city of Selçuk. Only one column, assembled from disparate fragments, remains standing as a solitary and melancholic marker. The Mausoleum. An earthquake in the Middle Ages brought it down. Ironically, its stones are still there, but not in the tomb. They were used by the Knights Hospitaller to build Bodrum Castle, which still watches over the harbor. The mausoleum lives on, but transformed into a fortress. The Colossus of Rhodes. The giant had a short life, only 54 years before an earthquake broke its knees. Today, Mandrake Harbor is a vibrant tourist spot, full of yachts and cafes. But where the sun god once stood, today there are only columns with bronze deer. The giant disappeared into the foundry of history. The Lighthouse of Alexandria. It survived until the 14th century, but earthquakes finally defeated it. Today, its massive granite blocks lie on the seabed of the harbor, visible only to divers, or form the foundations of Kite Bay Fort, which occupies exactly the same spot, defending the coast where the light once shone. Standing virtually in these places, it is hard not to feel a mixture of awe and loss. These civilizations built for eternity, using the hardest materials and the largest scales possible, and yet almost everything has returned to dust.
But perhaps the true wonder isn't the stones, but the ambition. The fact that thousands of years ago, human beings looked at the horizon and decided that the impossible was just an engineering problem to be solved. And thanks to these digital reconstructions, we can, even if just for a few minutes, see the world as they saw it, full of magic, power, and grandeur. Thank you very much for joining me on this journey to the past. If there is another lost city or a specific historical moment you would like to see revived, let me know in the comments. Your ideas are what build this channel. See you on the next journey.